They love to live in the city. They have nice shoes, nice clothes. They care a lot about how they look and appear. They're those people who just go and make things pretty, make things look nice. They're servants, so they don't really have messages themselves. They just serve other people and help them look good while they're doing it. I'm not organized. I have some funky shoes. I definitely live on the side where I'm not very interested in just. When I work with people, when I do my design work, I'm interested in conversation. I'm interested in sharing and coming together with the people I work with to create a collective voice rather than a voice that's just my own or just their own. I definitely don't think design is just about making things pretty. Design is about finding and creating meaningful visuals for others, to serve others, but also to help contribute to others. So it's much more active than sometimes the stereotypes would suggest. I think sometimes we deserve them, but I think a whole lot of designers are interested in doing things besides just, mindlessly serving someone else. We're really interested in actually sharing our creative voices and adding our creative voices to our work. And there's a lot of designers who aren't organized. There's a lot of designers who are just all about energy and get so into their projects that the organization starts to fly out the window. I think to the level of living in the city or living other places, I think people live all over the place. There are designers who live in totally rural areas. It's just about what place inspires you and how you can bring that inspiration into your work. So I think designers are much more people than we sometimes like to think of them. They like to contribute their ideas, they like to live in places that inspire them, and they just like to live with creative energy.
Stuck up, rich, drugs, wealthy, adventurous, patriotic, and of course the infamous white man can't jump. I feel like they could be true about some, but we all have our own differences no matter what color our skin tone. These stereotypes don't apply to me. I'm my own person no matter what anyone else says.
I think loud and uneducated. I think to a certain extent it might be true, but it's definitely not true about every Hispanic. And being loud isn't a bad thing. And there are plenty of Hispanics that are well educated. Like for me, it might be easier because I'm light-skinned, but like when I'm with like my family and they're darker, like there are definitely a lot of people who like judge them and like definitely like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you're Hispanic and all these things. I'm definitely not a quiet person and I'm definitely loud. I don't have the best of education, but I'm not uneducated either. And I don't speak English very properly, but that's because English is my second language. Definitely, there's been a lot of people who have come up to me and be like, oh, how do you say this in Spanish? Or like automatically just assume that I do know Spanish and stuff, or they'll automatically assume that I like follow like Mexican traditions or like other Hispanic traditions because they think we're all alike when we're really not.
Likely like smart, hardworking, and like I don't know, studious or geeky. I mean, those are some of just a few, a few. So I think, yeah, honestly, I think some maybe. I'm so self-absorbed that I would say I'm a smart guy, because honestly, I don't find myself to be. I find beauty in chaos. It's not always about order. It's not always about success. For me, a lot of that, it's only just a fragment of the lives that we live. It's only something. I mean, I feel like it's something that has changed throughout the decades, I guess, because essentially there's also a difference between, because like Asians, like it is still different, it differs from what we're talking about. Like there are those They're quote unquote fobs, fresh off the boat. First generation immigrants that don't really understand the culture. All they know is what they had from back home. So some of them are might possess some aspects of the stereotype. They might push it further, but I feel like a lot of it, I think mostly we're still moving in the right direction.
Bad parents, poor hygiene, thieves, evil people. I feel like all those stereotypes are nonsense, because how can you judge someone before you even know who they are, no matter what skin color they are? Whether you're white, black, red, pink, blue, you don't know someone until you actually get to know them. I've seen the good and the bad in every race, every color. So there's no race that you can point at and say that they only do that. There's bad black fathers, there are bad white fathers, there are bad Puerto Rican fathers. There are great white fathers, there are great black fathers, and there are also great Puerto Rican fathers. So you can't really just sit here and say black people are bad dads, or hey, white people are rich. I honestly don't think it's fair to be prejudged like that. Like, who are we to tell somebody that we know who they are based on their skin color? For example, Bill Gates is a billionaire, but he drives a 99 Toyota Corolla. If we were to prejudge him, we would think he was poor, he lived in a bad neighborhood most likely, and it's exactly the opposite. If we were to sit here and just judge people by what we see and not what we know, this whole world would be array.
I think one of the first stereotypes that comes to mind is this stereotype that we're perfect or we have it all together. And kind of closely related to that is this stereotype that we're kind of self-righteous, that we have like kind of a chip on our shoulder that's we're better than everyone else. I absolutely think that that's one of those stereotypes that personally is one that I see a lot as I interact with people online or out and about. It's, oh, you're a Christian, and then all of a sudden it's kind of negative, like, oh, and you think you're better than me. And so it's definitely one of those top stereotypes that I think of. They're always a little bit shocking to me. I find myself pretty authentic, and I think, I try my hardest to not present myself as self-righteous. I think there's definitely peace that surpasses me in my understanding that I have, and therefore I'm not as worried about the day-to-day things. But that stereotype of being perfect is just like so false, because we're all fallen, and like we totally mess up, and I totally mess up, and there's days that I have a bad day and it's a bad day. So it always just kind of strikes me as a little bit like odd, like why would you put me in that box? That box is so impossible to attain. Absolutely. I think that sometimes I even catch myself comparing to other people, and sometimes I find myself a little bit like, wow, like that person is really like lost and really doesn't know what's going on. Like, I'm glad that I have it figured out. And we talk about this in the Bible too, with the Pharisee saying, praying out loud and being all not humble, but presenting all of his problems, and then laughing kind of at the guy next to him who's like tearing his clothes. Definitely not the Pharisee, but I definitely don't fall into where I'm really humble and I'm really like presenting just myself as the rawness of who I am. And so I catch myself, so it does fit me occasionally, the self-righteousness, the perfectness, and that's all fleshly desires.
The problem is, all these stereotypes are instilled in us while we're still young. You hear your parents making smart little comments about other races, and it just sticks with you. And it's tough when it's not the parents embedding this into children's heads. It's the movies they watch, or when you're walking to the store. Stereotypes are everywhere. No one is born judgmental. It takes someone to show you what's bad or good. Just like children don't know the difference between green and blue until we show them that. The only way we can get past this stereotypical day and age is to show our children that everyone is equal and show them that it's not right to judge before you know someone.